Hypertrophy Coach! Way to snag that title, you cheeky bastard. So you may recall what I usually try to do with these reviews is top load the information that you need the most, including my final score, so you can decide for yourselves if you're going to keep watching. Now for the Hypertrophy Coach app, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. If your only goal in the gym is hypertrophy, this app is going to get you there. I feel pretty comfortable giving it a score, unlike I did with the Ganbaru method, which, while similar in a lot of ways, covered a much broader approach to programming, a broader number of goals, and even a broader number of coaches contributing, so it was much harder to give a specific grade to. Whereas this one is much more cohesive in terms of the fact that pretty much all of the programs are written by Joe Bennett, the hypertrophy coach himself. If you treat this as one big bodybuilding system, which I would contend it very much is, it is much easier to examine this thing from the standpoint of, is it going to help you achieve that specific goal? I will throw in a couple of caveats and I'll explain more later in the video. The fact is that while there are a couple of beginner-friendly programs listed in the app, the vast majority of them are more in the intermediate advanced category, and that is something I think you should understand going in. The ideal user of this app, in my opinion, is someone who has been lifting in the gym for at least a year or two and gotten familiar with what they like. They are comfortable with tracking their nutrition every day and also taking their own measurements. They are willing and able to take most of their working sets to failure. And once again, this is for people who are only here for the gains. No powerlifters allowed. And you get the heck out of my face, hybrid athletes. So that's my overview. Let's get into the specifics. First category, effectiveness, and I'm giving it full points, 2 out of 2. The name don't lie. This is the Hypertrophy Coach. The man is a bodybuilder who trains bodybuilders. All of his programs are about bodybuilding. The techniques that he teaches are all about isolating the individual muscles as much as possible. There is like a token power building program in here, but make no mistake, the reason that you would subscribe to this app is because you are looking to grow muscle as fast and efficiently as you possibly can. I mentioned this at the top of the video, but again, be advised, there are some beginner-friendly programs here, but the vast majority are what you would call intermediate and advanced programming. The 3 beginner programs that I will mention a little later, and also I'm listing in the doobly-doo, they will absolutely prove effective as long as you stick with them consistently long enough that you are able to progress into intermediate volumes and intensities of training. Do not jump the gun on this one, okay? These are brutally hard training programs. Speaking from my own experience, when I started using the app for myself, it was after I had gotten access to a gym again after lockdowns. So I was back in newbie gains phase, right? I tried a few of the programs, making choices based on what seemed interesting, what looked more enjoyable, but what I ended up landing on, and the one that got me the farthest, was the full body Focker. It is the single simplest program that I have ever completed. Essentially, you are doing one workout 3 times a week, and you do that for 12 plus weeks. And believe it or not, I did not find myself getting bored despite this. Since the fact is, I was enjoying the process of adding a rep or 5 pounds of weight to every single one of these movements, session by session, week by week. That's an incredibly fulfilling stage of training. And I think the way that it's set up, where you're just doing the one workout repeatedly, really allows you to milk that. The exercise selection itself also I found very intriguing at the time, and it really helped reorient my own personal training philosophy, especially with beginners in mind. You see, I came into weight training with the idea that free weights are, in general, a better way to train. And for beginners especially, it is a much better thing to do to get them on your meat and potatoes powerlifting movements, right? Your bench press, squat, deadlift, overhead press, barbell row. And I still, to a degree, believe that most people that come to me for training, I should do my best to teach them those, because not that I think they're better, but because of the universality of that equipment access. But coming back to the Hypertrophy Coach app and this beginner program, I was very surprised to see things like machine pull downs, not even the actual cable lat pull down station, but the machine to converging handles pull down as the main vertical pull. Also, instead of a free weight squat, the main squat movement, the main quad developer was either the hack squat or, as I ended up using, the leg press. No barbell squat, Romanian deadlifts instead of regular deadlifts, and a Smith machine high incline press instead of an overhead press. My whole world turned upside down, and my muscles blew the fuck up. With the benefit of hindsight, it does make a lot of sense. You have consistent movement selection, you have progressive overload, you have a reasonable amount of volume, and a reasonable but gradually increasing level of intensity. That is a tried and true recipe for muscle growth. From the usability point of view, I give it 1.5 out of 2. There is a metric fuck ton of info in the video section of the app. Program selection is pretty straightforward. The nutrition tracker is pretty easy to use. And the forum section is closely monitored by the 3 coaches that run it, Bennett included. And every single question asked by one of the users gets an audio response within a day. The exercise demo videos, the thing you want to make sure you understand before you get started with this thing is that these videos are going to be very detailed. They are 10 to 15 minutes in a lot of cases. So fantastic for watching when you are preparing to get started on a program. But if you're in the gym and just looking for like a quick visual reminder of how to do it, you'll have to scrub through to find it in a lot of cases. Some of the newer ones, he now has made a point of starting with a clip of himself or another trainee just executing the exercise. But for the older videos, you click on that, you are just going to start with an introduction, and it takes a while to get there. So again, just something to be aware of going into it. I don't think of it as a flaw, but it would be nice if there was simply a short video clip or a GIF as opposed to just the full 15-minute video there. The workouts themselves, these pump work finishers that are meant to just kind of create this massive amount of burn in your muscles at the end of the session. I love that it's in here. I think it's a really cool feature, but you're basically presented with just a full list of all of them at the end that you can choose from. They're not listed by category, they're not listed by muscle group, they're not listed alphabetically even, and there's no search function. So it really only works if you know in advance which one you're going to pick, which as soon as you pick it, it'll repeat by default whenever you do that workout again in the program. But that first week is just going to be a little bit more laborious, and you might just want to do a little bit more prep time before you begin the program itself and start hitting the gym. Now, the fact that this app has a couple of usability flaws, in my opinion, is mitigated by the fact that they are super receptive to feedback. They request it constantly. There is a quick link in the app to submit feedback, for example, of like a feature that you would like to see in the future. And they're constantly doing these little update videos explaining some change they have made to the app, how it works. On the flexibility side, I give it 1.5 out of 2. If we treat this app as one big hypertrophy system, the flexibility begins with the fact that you have a wide menu of programs to choose from that are all moving towards the same goal. Unlike in Ganbaru, where you are picking programs based on a fitness goal in a lot of cases, the programs here, they all have more in common than not. You're really choosing based on 3 criteria: your current experience level, the body part you would like to emphasize, and your preference of training split. As far as the scheduling goes, a lot of the programs will actually offer you different options based on your recovery status. You aren't stuck on a single, here's the 7-day week, here's when you do each workout in the week. You can mess about as much as you like, and I'm a huge fan of that because I don't think that sticking to a strict 7-day week is actually that important for hypertrophy training, as long as you're getting a certain amount of volume in on a weekly basis. If there's a little bit of fluctuation there, I really don't think it's that big of a deal for most folks. As far as the exercise selection goes, there is always at least one recommended alternative that you can just push a button and flip over to in the workout. And you're encouraged to just make those selections based on preference and equipment availability. And if none of the recommended options work for you, you can just sub it in for whatever you want. And also, with each program, there is an Add Week button at the end, and you are encouraged to use it. The philosophy behind these programs and this training structure is very clearly built on the idea that as long as it's working, as long as you are seeing gains, as long as you are seeing progression, you should keep doing what you're doing. The reason to change is because it is not effective anymore. Your goals have changed, like you have a different body part, for example, you would like to give emphasis to, or you're just bored and really want to make a change. That's fine too. There's a whole guidance section where he walks you through all of this, so nothing is really going to be left as a mystery. And again, if there's any questions that you have, you're always welcome to post them on the forum. So you should never feel like you've been left in the dark when using this app. There is one critique I have when it comes to the flexibility side of things, and that is that while the sum total of written and video information provided does give you everything you need to know to choose which program to start with, for example, especially when it comes to beginners, I do think it would be helpful to have a simple program selector tool. For example, maybe it's a quiz like they do on like the sales page of a bunch of other coaches, or it could simply be a document or a video or whatever it is, or even sorting the programs into categories based on level of advancement that you're expected to have. I'm just spitballing here, but there just isn't an equivalent of that in my opinion. I'm actually going to flash on the screen here which programs work for beginners and early intermediates. For advanced, you can just do all of them. They are all perfectly doable for you. And I'm also going to put the same list in the doobly-doo. So if you do choose to use this app, you can feel free to follow my recommendations for which programs to start with. Now, to clarify where I draw the distinction of which ones are beginner and intermediate friendly versus more advanced, I am mostly speaking to how close to failure the program expects you to be most of the time. Most of the intermediate advanced programs are actually relatively low volume, but very high intensity, generally programming 0 to 2 RIR on most working sets. Now, for beginners, that level of intensity, it's not that I don't think it's doable, of course it is, but it's not necessary. Because the fact is that people who are beginners will respond to just about anything, including training to 4 or even 5 reps in reserve. And staying farther from failure allows for better adherence, since you're not feeling beaten up and dreading going into the gym, and better technique development, which will serve you much, much better down the line as you continue your training. You can just give her and start taking everything to 0 RIR, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to do it, and you will likely see better results from being a bit more conservative to start with. Enjoyability, 2 out of 2, asterisk, 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 asterisk. If you enjoy tackling meat and potatoes, bodybuilding exercises, pushing them all the way to failure, you're going to enjoy this app. If you like getting into nerd shit for hypertrophy training, you're going to enjoy this app. You will have to get used to training at a pretty high intensity to get the most out of this program. You're not going to have your tough person card taken away from you if this particular approach to training is a little too much for you. I honestly don't blame you. But that is the expectation here, and you're basically kind of bumping up against the program goals and intentions by holding back. So you have to decide for yourself in advance if that's something that you're going to be all right with, especially because not only are things often taken to 0 RIR, but there are also things like drop sets that get added in addition to that later on in the programs. So we're doing some pretty hard friggin' training here. And then, of course, there's the pump work. Now, these finishers are brutal. They are completely optional. If you are tuckered out by the end of your workout, you finished all the log-booked sets, and it says, would you like to add some extra pump work? You can just not do it, and it's fine. It's not even clear in the science right now if metabolic stress has an additive effect to hypertrophy or not. The reason to do the pump work is because you want to cover all of your bases and you just want a nasty friggin' pump at the end of your session. It's a fun feature. For me, it definitely adds to the enjoyability. If it's not for you, Pretend it's not even there. For value, 2 out of 2, full points. For something that costs this much money, I wouldn't normally award full points because I would be putting this thing under much more scrutiny and looking for what's missing. As a hypertrophy training system, there isn't really anything notable missing. To make sure you get the most out of it though, my first tip is subscribe through their website, not through Apple. Not through the App Store, I should say. Apart from that just being good general practice across the board for any subscription-based app, you will get access to the full program library if you subscribe through the website, whereas if you subscribe through the App Store, you get access to, I believe, 1 program every 6 weeks, unless you pay for the year up front, which for a lot of folks is a little bit easier said than done. There is a ton of educational content that you can make use of if you wish. The demo videos for the exercises alone, like I said, tend to be 10 to 15 minutes, and they go through everything, every little nuance of the exercise, the biomechanics involved, the little technical guidance to get the best stretch, the best squeeze, the best profile. And in addition to that, in the TV section, you have everything under the sun. You've got thorough explainer videos about how hypertrophy even works. There is a section that is just for new personal trainers, which I gotta say I did personally value quite a bit because I was watching these videos as a new personal trainer at a corporate gym. The videos themselves, I wouldn't necessarily say they have a lot of high production value. I'm not saying they need it, it's fine. It's usually just either him talking directly to the camera, like I'm doing right now. That's fine, but if you have a short attention span, a half an hour of that might be a bit of a slog for you. But if you have the patience and time, the level of education that is available within this app is substantial. And there's a nutrition tracker. Now, it's not my favorite nutrition tracker. It's a little less flexible than what I would prefer. It doesn't have the cool hand portion thing like Ganbaru. But if you want to pay just 1 subscription and have all of this in one application, all of your training, your nutrition, your bodybuilding forum, and all of these educational videos, if you just kind of want to have that all under one price tag, you can do it, and the nutrition tracker will absolutely work for you. And it's a solid tool to include. I'm glad that it's there. I think this might be the highest ranking I have given something on this channel so far, and I hope at least that the asterisks I have included about who is going to benefit from it most versus who might not have been made clear. If your interest is in hypertrophy and bodybuilding, this is the best tool that I have personally used and looked at so far on this channel. So comment below if you have used this app, if you have enjoyed it, if you've not enjoyed it, and comment if you've got other programs that you would like me to review. So thanks so much for watching. Now go get friggin' strong.